Welcome in, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hope you all are well and hope you had a good and happy NFL Week 10 weekend. So, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about in this week of NFL action. We're going to take a look and talk about most of the games. We're going to take a look and see which players stood out and just overall impressions from NFL Week 10 action. So, some particular games that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the big matchup between the New England Patriots, Drake May, going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. We're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. They keep winning, and it looks like they're back in the playoff mix. And we're going to talk about the matchup on Sunday Night Football between the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, Aaron Rodgers. So we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. Before we do jump into that, I would like to mention that on my YouTube channel, I create content about money, sports, and personal topics with the goal of bringing value to other people's lives. So if you guys find value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. All right, let's go ahead and jump into NFL Week 10. All right, so things kicked off on Thursday Night Football with a matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos. So this was a matchup between Geno Smith of the Raiders and Bo Nix of the Broncos. This was a in division matchup, the AFC West. So it was kind of an important game. Anytime it's a divisional opponent, it has more significance. So in this one, the Denver Broncos pulled out the win, 10-7. They improved to 8-2 on the season, and the Raiders fall to 2-7. So let's go ahead and check out some of the game leaders in this one. All right, for the Raiders, Geno Smith, 16 for 26, 143 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. So a pretty bad game by Geno in this one. He's been up and down the whole season. And just me personally, I don't think he's a starting level quarterback in the NFL. Ashton Genty had 19 carries for 60 yards with 1 touchdown. All right. Let's check out the other side. For the Broncos, Bo Nix, 16 for 28, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Dobbins had 77 yards rushing. All right. So this wasn't the most exciting game, to kick off NFL Week 10, but the Thursday night football games are still kind of interesting to watch just because there's really not much else going on Thursday night, so they're always an easy watch. But in this one, again, not the most entertaining game, very low scoring, not a lot of offense in this one, so it was just kind of an ugly game to watch. But it was an important game for the Broncos. Um, they get another win versus a division opponent. They're 8-2 on the season. They're looking very good. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. But on the negative side, their quarterback Bo Nix did not look very good in this game. He's also kind of had an up and down season. You know, one or two quarters he looks really amazing, and he looks like he's the franchise quarterback. But then on other parts of the game, other quarters, he looks very bad. He doesn't have a very good accuracy. So just kind of up and down with him. But the team as a whole is really good, particularly because of the defense. And Sean Payton, the head coach, has his team at 8-2 on the season. On the other side, the Raiders, again, they're not going anywhere this season. I'm not a believer in Geno Smith as a starting quarterback in the NFL. I think he's a career backup. I know he's had some success in the recent years, but he's just way too inconsistent and turnover prone. So, not sure what the Raiders will do next season with the quarterback position. So, another cool game this weekend was an international game between the Atlanta Falcons and the Indianapolis Colts. So, this was a matchup between Michael Penix Jr. of the Falcons versus Daniel Jones of the Colts. And this one was in Berlin, Germany. So I love watching these international games just because they have a different vibe and feel to them. I love watching like the local fans to see which team they're going to root for. And this season, the NFL has had the most international games in a regular season than it's ever had. So it's just good to see the NFL growing in Europe, particularly. And, they're playing in several different countries. So love to see that and love the different taste that these games have. So in this one, the Colts again win 31-25. They're 8-2 on the season, and the Falcons fall to 3-6. Let's take a look at some game leaders in this one. Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix, 12 for 28, 177 yards, one touchdown. Bijan Robinson, 84 yards rushing. Drake London had a good game, 104 yards receiving with one touchdown. And check out the other team. Daniel Jones for the Colts, 19 for 26, 255 yards, one touchdown, one interception. So a solid game by Daniel Jones. Jonathan Taylor, running back, had a huge game, 32 carries, 244 yards, three touchdowns. That's just kind of crazy numbers to see, honestly. And he's definitely in the MVP race. He's having the best season from all the running backs. And their tight end, Warren, had 99 yards receiving. So, good game by the Colts, specifically their running back. And they get a nice win after losing last week to the Steelers. So, just a couple more thoughts on these two teams. So, the Falcons, they're one of the worst teams in the NFL as far as their quarterback situation. Not sure if Michael Penix is the solution long term, but the Falcons aren't going anywhere this season. They're just kind of a bottom tier team. For the Colts, so I mentioned that last week they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which was kind of a surprise. Daniel Jones, he's still playing really well. This week he had a solid game. They have the best running back in NFL with Jonathan Taylor. And they just look really good, like on all levels. Their defense is good, and we were kind of initially maybe thinking that their win streak and play is not sustainable throughout the whole season, and we were kind of expecting that they might fall off at some point. But so far, they're still playing good. 8-2 on the season. Daniel Jones playing well, best running back in the game. So I don't think the Colts are falling off. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't still think they're going to make some serious noise in the playoffs. Um, it seems like every year in the NFL, there's always like a really good regular season team that kind of surprises everybody. But once the playoffs come, they just kind of hit a wall and don't make any serious noise in the playoffs. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with the Colts. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see once the playoffs start. So, a game that I was looking forward to watching was the matchup between the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, this was a matchup between Drake May of the Patriots versus Baker Mayfield of the Bucks. So, these two teams, they don't play each other too often. And I just found the quarterback matchups to be interesting with Drake May, who's young and becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and Baker Mayfield, who's a veteran and who so far was having an MVP type of season. So just a interesting quarterback matchup in this one. And I was definitely rooting for my hometown Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this game was in Tampa, but they were not able to get it done. The Patriots win 28-23. The Patriots improved to a very impressive 8-2 record on the season, and the Bucks fall to 6-3. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. For the Patriots, Drake May, he went 16 for 31, 270 yards, two touchdowns, one interception. So a pretty good game by him. He continues his good play, and he's one of the front runners for MVP this season somehow. So I don't think anybody expected Drake May to be in the MVP conversation heading into the season. I think a lot of people thought the Patriots were going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, but they're 8-2. Drake May is playing amazing MVP type of season, so that's why we love and watch the NFL because there's always these amazing storylines. As far as the Patriots, Henderson, their running back Henderson had a really good game, 147 yards rushing with two touchdowns. Hollins had 106 yards receiving. On the other side, Baker Mayfield for the Bucks, he went 28 for 43, 273 yards, three touchdowns, zero interceptions. So this is a really good game by Baker. Multiple touchdowns, over 250 yards with no turnovers. So still a very impressive season by Baker Mayfield so far, but they got the L in this one. Their rookie wide receiver Emeka Ibuka had a good game with 115 yards receiving and a touchdown. So he continues to have a good rookie season as well. So some more thoughts on these two teams. Yeah, I mean, I think the New England Patriots are one of the biggest positive surprises this season. I don't think anybody saw them being an 8-2 on the season at this point. Um, I don't think anybody expected Drake May to be playing at an MVP level, and They're just in a really good spot in their division. They have a lead on the Buffalo Bills. So, very, very impressive season by the Patriots. They have an amazing head coach, Mike Vrabel. So, I think the good old days for the Patriots are back. The Tom Brady days, maybe not at that level of success, but I think the Patriots are going to be good for a long time to come. For the Bucks, I think they're a very good team. I don't think they're an upper echelon team like the in the NFC, like the Eagles or the Packers or the Lions. I think they're in a tier below that. Um, I like Baker Mayfield. He had a really good game again. I like the roster, but it seems like the Bucks every year they're very good. They're very good in the regular season. They make the playoffs, and they don't really make too much noise in the playoffs. So I expect that type of season again from the Bucks. I hope I'm wrong because I want my home team to have a really good season and go deep in the playoffs, but I think history is just going to repeat itself with the Bucks. So next we're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. So they had a matchup between the Minnesota Vikings. So this was a matchup between Lamar Jackson of the Ravens versus JJ McCarthy of the Vikings. So close game, but in this one the Ravens get the win 27-19. They improved to 4-5 on the season, and the Vikings fall to 4-5. So let's take a look at the game leaders in this one. For the Ravens, Lamar Jackson went 17 for 29, 176 yards with a touchdown, zero interceptions. So a solid game by him. Derrick Henry had 75 yards rushing, and Zay Flowers 75 yards receiving. So just kind of a okay or solid game by the Ravens defense or Ravens offense. Let's check on the other team. For the Vikings, JJ McCarthy, he went 20 for 42, 248 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. So, not a very good game there. He was under 50% in completion percentage. He had the two interceptions. So, JJ McCarthy has kind of struggled since coming back from his injury. And honestly, I kind of thought he would be better than he is at this point, but it's still kind of early in his career, so I'm sure he's going to get better, but he's kind of been a bit more disappointing than expected. All right, so what else can we say about these two teams? So for the Ravens, not too long ago, they were 1-5 on the season. It was looking really bad, like they're going to miss the playoffs, like they're not going to win their division. Fast forward 3 weeks, they get three wins in a row. They're 4-5. The Steelers, who are in their division, lost this week, so they're catching up to the Steelers, who are 5-4. So by next weekend, if the Steelers lose, they would be 5-5. If the Ravens win, they would also be 5-5, and the two of them would be basically tied in the division. So it's crazy how things can change in the NFL in just a few weeks. Lamar Jackson is back. He's playing pretty well. Their defense has picked it up. So, and just looking at the odds, the Baltimore Ravens are favorite to win their division. Um, so I'm rooting for the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, but I think that the Ravens are gonna catch them and eventually pass them later in the season. So look out for the Baltimore Ravens. For the Vikings, I mean, they're having a pretty solid season, 4-5. Um, but again, just as far as their quarterback play, JJ McCarthy, he's kind of up and down, and he's not the most accurate quarterback. But they still have a good overall team. So they might make the playoffs, but they're in a tough division with the Lions, the the Bears. So very tough division there to make it out of. So they're just kind of a middle of the road team. But we'll see if JJ McCarthy gets better throughout the season and where they end up at. So another game that I was excited about watching was the matchup between the New York Giants and the Chicago Bears. So this was a matchup of two young quarterbacks. The rookie quarterback for the Giants, Jackson Dart, versus the second year quarterback for the Bears, Caleb Williams. So two of the more exciting quarterbacks or young quarterbacks. And definitely wanted to see them go head to head and see what it looked like. So this was a really good game to watch. In the end, the Chicago Bears storm back and get the win, 24-20. The Bears have a pretty good record at 6-3. I think that's a lot better than a lot of people expected. And the Giants fall to 2-8 on the season. So let's take a look at the game leaders in this one. So for the Giants, Jackson Dart, he went 19 for 29, 242 yards, zero touchdowns, zero interceptions. And he did leave this game early due to an injury. So still a pretty good game by him, even though he didn't finish the game. And on the other side, for the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, he went 20 for 36, 220 yards, one touchdown, zero interceptions. So a very good game by him. And their running back Swift had 80 yards rushing, and Odunze had 86 yards receiving with a touchdown. All right, so let's talk about the New York Giants first. So a few weeks ago, they made that change at quarterback from Russell Wilson to Jackson Dart. And honestly, it hasn't produced better results. Um, they're still one of the worst teams in the NFL at 2-8. I mean, Jackson Dart, he's kind of exciting to watch, and he's got some flair to his game, but he also makes a lot of mistakes, and he also just doesn't have the winning formula at this point in his career. I think that he's still learning and growing in the system. So even though it felt good to put him in at the starting quarterback position, it really hasn't made a difference at all this season. But going forward, I think it is good for his development, and I think he'll be better as the season goes on and in the coming years. And also in this game, I mean, the Giants were winning most of the game, um, and it looked like they were going to win the game, but the Bears, they scored two touchdowns in the fourth quarter and squeeze out the win. And today we had breaking news that the head coach for the New York Giants, Brian Daboll, he's been fired. So the Giants are deciding to go in a different direction as far as their head coach. And I don't think was a big surprise just because he's had a bad season and bad few years with the Giants. So I think the Giants had this plan in place for a long time, but it's still disappointing to see a head coach get fired. But hopefully, it'll bring some changes to the Giants. For the Chicago Bears, just kind of a pretty good game for them. Nothing too amazing, nothing too bad. Caleb Williams had made some really nice plays and got a win at the end with some critical throws. And the team is sitting pretty at 6-3 on the season. Um, they're getting better every week. Their head coach is really good and creative, Ben Johnson. So I think the Bears are having a better season than expected, and I think they're just going to get better from here, and we'll see how far they go. We had a really exciting game in California between the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. So this was a game between Matt Stafford of the Rams and Mac Jones of the 49ers, who's still in for the injured Brock Purdy. High scoring game, and the Rams get a big win 42-26. They improved to 7-2 on the season. The 49ers fall to 6-4. So the Rams get the win here in the Battle of California. Let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. For the Rams, Matthew Stafford, 24 for 36, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Just an amazing game by Matt Stafford. Kyron Williams, 73 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, still playing amazing at his age, 77 yards receiving with a touchdown. So the Rams' offense is just too good. For the 49ers, Mac Jones, 33 for 39, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So a really good game by Mac Jones, but it just wasn't enough. And George Kittle had 84 yards receiving with 1 touchdown. All right. So this was one of the more exciting games and high scoring games of the weekend. The Rams, they're one of the best, if not the best team in the NFC and maybe the NFL. Matt Stafford, he's definitely one of the front runners for MVP. He set a record. He's the first player in NFL history with 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in 3 straight games. So at his age, I believe he's 37 years old. He's setting records, and I think he's the front runner for MVP this season. Also, he's passed for 20 touchdowns and no picks in 6 straight games. So he's just having a really incredible season. And I think he'll get the MVP at the end of the season. His weapons are playing really well. Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua, Kyron Williams out of the backfield. So I'm very bullish on the Rams. I'm a Rams fan, and let's just keep it going. For the 49ers, they're having a solid season at 6-4. Um, Not sure what's going to happen with their quarterback situation. I'm sure they're going to go back to Brock Purdy once he's fully healthy. But Mac Jones has done a pretty good job filling in. Some people are saying that there's a quarterback controversy with the 49ers, whether they should go with Brock Purdy or stay with Mac Jones. People are saying that it's pretty much the same quarterback. So I'm sure they're going to stay with Brock Purdy, but you never know. So, two very good teams here in the NFC. in the same division, NFC West, but I think the Rams are just on another level, particularly with Matt Stafford playing amazing and having an MVP season. All right, guys. So the game that I was most excited about and most looking forward to watching was the Sunday night football matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Los Angeles Chargers. So this was a big, big matchup. Aaron Rodgers of the Steelers versus Justin Herbert of the Chargers, a future Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers in his 40s versus Justin Herbert, who's in his prime and one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So this was definitely must watch TV for me. I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan, and as a result, I'm rooting for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. And with all that excitement and joy that I was looking forward to, it ended up being a very, very disappointing game by the Steelers. Very disappointing Sunday night football game. And the Steelers lose in this one 10-25 to the Chargers. They dropped to 5-4 on the season. The Chargers improved to 7-3. So this was a big, potentially season-defying game for the Steelers, and they just couldn't get it done, of course. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. For the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, 16 for 31, 161 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. So this was Aaron Rodgers' probably worst game of the season. They just couldn't get anything going. He was overthrowing guys, um, like zero rhythm at all. They somehow got a touchdown in the very end, which shouldn't even count. So just a very, very bad performance by Aaron Rodgers and the offense. And they looked pretty good last week versus the Colts, but a totally different picture this weekend. So just very, very disappointed with Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers' offense. Um, so hopefully this is their worst game of the season when we look back, but don't want to see a game like this again. Their running back Warren had 70 yards rushing, and DK Metcalf only 35 yards receiving. I mean, that's not going to get it done in today's NFL. Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, 20 for 33, 220 yards, one touchdown. So Justin Herbert had a pretty good game, and he got a W for his team. Their running back Vidal, 95 yards rushing with a touchdown. Wide receiver McConkey had a really good game, 107 yards receiving with a touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, this was a pretty dominating win by the Chargers. The Steelers never had a chance in this one. All right, what else can we say about these teams? All right, so Pittsburgh Steelers, very, very, very disappointing game. They had a nice win last week versus the Colts, who have been red hot this season. So that kind of gave me hope. Um, they were 5-3 heading into this game. I was thinking if they get a win versus the Chargers, 6-3, that's a really good record. They would go, they would stay ahead of the Ravens in the division by a good amount. I was thinking for the Chargers, their left tackle Joe Alt is out for the season. So I just felt like this was a big game for the Steelers, a great opportunity to get a win and separate themselves in their division and significantly increase their chances of winning the division. But of course, that did not happen. Horrible offensive game. They only scored 10 points. I mean, and again, the last touchdown shouldn't even count. I mean, they only had a field goal in the first quarter, nothing in the second or third quarter. They just looked horrible. DK Metcalf, who's their top wide receiver, only 35 yards. I mean, that's not going to get it done. And they don't even have a second wide receiver to go along with DK Metcalf. Their their tight ends, Washington and Fryermuth, were not even involved in this game. So I'm just very disappointed in Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers as a Aaron Rodgers and Steelers fan. And hopefully, when we look back, this ends up being their worst performance of the year and just a one-off. And also in this game and this week, like we mentioned earlier, the Ravens got a win. So now they're within one game of the Steelers in the division. So next week, if the Steelers lose and the Ravens win, they both are 5-5 on the season. So I think the Steelers, this might have been their season defying game. I think they have a realistic chance of not making the playoffs, of not winning the division. So we shall see if they improve next week. And next week, they have a big game versus the Bengals. They lost to the Bengals a couple weeks ago. So hopefully they get a W next week and get back on track. For the Chargers, very impressive win, 7-3 on the season. Justin Herbert having a really good season, and their defense played really well in this game, holding the Steelers to only 10 points. So, just a very good performance by Herbert and the Chargers, and we'll see the Chargers in the playoffs. All right. So the last game that we're going to talk about is the game that's going to be played tonight, the Monday Night Football matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. And looks like this one is going to be played in Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's going to be around 30 degrees, if not colder. So this is going to be a matchup between Jalen Hurts of the Eagles, defending champs, versus Jordan Love of the Packers. So, a really good game tonight. Two of the best teams in the NFC, two exciting quarterbacks. And here on the right, the win probability looks like it's 50-50. So, Eagles 50.1%, Packers 49.9%. So, it's a coin flip in this one according to these odds or win probability. And I just want to give my prediction on this game. Um, this one's tough. I'm going to have to go with the Philadelphia Eagles in this one. I trust their quarterback, Jalen Hurts, more than I trust Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is more turnover prone and mistake prone than Jalen Hurts is. Jalen Hurts is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Jordan Love is not. And however, the game again is in Lambeau Field in Green Bay, so the Packers have a home field advantage. So that atmosphere in Lambeau Field is definitely a big deal and is going to help the Packers. But the Eagles, they're used to playing in cold weather and in tough stadiums. So very, very good game here. But again, I'm going to predict that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win this game over the Green Bay Packers. And we have a lot of good superstars in this one. So I mentioned Jalen Hurts versus Jordan Love. It's going to be a good running back competition as well. Or matchup, Saquon Barkley of the Eagles versus Josh Jacobs of the Packers, two of the better running backs in the NFL. We got some exciting wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith for the Eagles, Romeo Dobbs, and Christian Watson for the Packers. So can't wait for Monday Night Football. I expect the Eagles to win, but we shall see. We'll see if Micah Parsons has a good game in this one. He's been kind of quiet for a few weeks. If he gets after Jalen Hurts a little bit. So there we go. We'll see what happens. Before we wrap things up for today, let's go ahead and take a look at the standings in the NFL after Week 10 action. So we still have the Monday Night Football game between the Eagles and the Packers. So this isn't going to be 100%, but it's close enough. So let's go ahead and start with the AFC. So in the AFC East, New England Patriots 8-2, Buffalo Bills 6-3. The other two teams are going to be out. So heading into the season, I think a lot of people thought the Bills would easily win this division and that they would have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But New England Patriots are having an amazing season. They might be the biggest positive surprise in the NFL this season. And they have a very good chance of winning the division, but it's still not over. The Bills might catch them. So we'll see what happens. And I'm sure both of these teams will be in the playoffs. AFC North, we have Pittsburgh Steelers currently in the lead at 5-4. The Baltimore Ravens have 3 wins in a row. They're hot on their tail. And my expectation is that the Ravens will take over the lead in a few weeks over the Steelers, and in the end, the Ravens will win the division. And the Steelers still might make the playoffs, but might not. And I think the Bengals and Browns are for sure out this season. The AFC South, Colts are 8-2. They're going to win this division. The Jags, I was thinking that they might make the playoffs as well, but they've just had some horrible losses this season, and they're just very disappointing from week to week. You don't know what you're going to get from them, so I don't think anybody else is going to make the playoffs in this division other than the Colts. AFC West, 3 really good teams. The Broncos are 8-2, Chargers 7-3, Chiefs 5-4. The Raiders are out. Yeah, I mean, all of these teams are really good, like I mentioned. Not sure who's going to win this one. I think the best team is or are the Kansas City Chiefs, but they do have a ways to go to catch up to the Broncos, so they don't have a lot of room for error. So I think the Broncos will win this division, but I think the Chiefs will still make the playoffs, and maybe the Chargers as well. All right, let's go over to the NFC. NFC East, the Eagles are 6-2. They're going to make the playoffs. The other 3 teams are not. NFC North, a lot of competition in this one. Packers are 5-2-1. Lions 6-3. Bears 6-3. Vikings 4-5. I think the Green Bay Packers and Lions will make the playoffs. and the Bears as well. The Vikings, I think, are going to be out, but this one's going to be tough. NFC South, Tampa Bay Bucks 6-3. They're going to make the playoffs, and the other three teams, I don't expect them to make the playoffs. And the NFC West, Seattle Seahawks at 7-2, Rams 7-2, 49ers at 6-4, Cardinals at 3-6 are going to be out. I think the best team in this division is the Los Angeles Rams, but the Seahawks are really good as well. I expect those two teams to make the playoffs, and the other two teams, the 49ers and Cardinals, I expect them to be out of the playoff picture. All right, guys, so that's all I wanted to share for NFL Week 10 action. I hope you guys liked this content and got some value out of it. If you did, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.